to the class. This is LifeLab session number 11. We are on the morning devotionals done in the when? Morning. Yeah, fit it into your schedule. Maybe wake up an extra 15 minutes early. We are on Proverbs 26, Psalm 86, and then somewhere else, wherever you do. And the goal is a day a page. You can write down your listening prayer question. You can do some light journaling. I know the concept of journaling is good. A lot of us don't like journaling, and then some of us love journaling. So this is kind of the intermediate, get you started. You don't have to journal like 40 pages of how you felt today and what you reflected and how God spoke to you. If you're someone that's never journaled, this is a good beginning of just getting something on paper in a morning practice. So I encourage you. You guys are probably all pros at this now. Got all the right dates. You do it every morning. Boom, like clockwork. And then we have worship music, listening 20 minutes, and then the listening prayer. So just as far as homework goes, we've taken up the 35 questions. Some would say 72. And then we have the 100 or 189 questions, which should be done and taken up today. At the very least, try and get them written out. If you struggle with writing things out, then meet with your pace setter outside of pace setting time and verbally go through them. I've had many guys do that, even emailing them, that kind of thing. Behavioral sequence, it's a great tool for you to practice changing the results of some of your behavior that you're not happy with. And so this is a handout. Maybe do that. Try and do that. Engage in that once a week. Just to look at the outside cues, the inside tapes, trying to look at what you're rewarding and being able to change your behavior. So that was a practical application tool. We looked at our triggers, and then we did the spiritual healing. We did the spiritual wounding, but then the healing part of it is to, incorporate some of the stuff that we're learning daily, which you're doing, and then incorporate a creative exercise. So if you don't have a creative outlet, I'm just trying to encourage you to find one or get one or ask about what one is. So there's tons of little things that you might not be aware of that you could incorporate into your life. So where we are right now, we've looked how we're made in spirit. This is our spirit, our soul, and our body. This is where we have our primary wounding. We looked at all the types of wounding, the timid, imprisoned, crushed, orphaned, defiled, and broken. Those are classifications of spiritual wounding. Remember at the very beginning, we looked at the black dots and the garbage pile and the rats and all that stuff. This is a lot of the times formed from young prenatal birth stuff, from family of origin stuff, and it can be pretty deep. And then we look at our soul, our mind, will, and emotions, our intellect, our thinking, and our feelings. And so we've looked at that in pretty big depth, where that's kind of where we take over. Whenever there's something weak, something else takes over, and most of us react and live out of our intellect. Right, we can all figure out how to pay the bills for the most part. I got to get this kind of job. Well, to get that kind of job, I need this kind of education. And how do I get that? So our intellect and our thinking and then our emotions. A lot of us can have lived our lives on our emotions. So I feel this makes me feel this way, and some of it can be positive. The whole social justice movement is about positive feeling and positive energy. If I help these baby seals, it makes me feel better. Yay. Plug for baby seals. So to get this into a healing mode, we've already begun that journey. What we are looking at, where we, as we were made as well, God gave us natural thirsts and desires. Remember, we talked about the worms and the little bird, and were the worms good or bad? Then the worms are good. The worms are good. Like, we need to eat the worms. It's how we go about getting them. And so we looked at 3 different ways that we have those worms. So sex, security, and social. I won't write those. S, S, S. Look at that. And so where we have trouble, where we get into trouble, and where our wounding kind of takes us into being independent and getting our needs met ourselves, is where we run into problems. So when we do things our way, we get the blocks of resentment, of fear, of shame, and of guilt, and we hurt people around us, and it blocks us not only from people, but from God and from our life source. And so this is the Spirit of God, and our job in this LifeLab, as we are getting into this more in the next couple lessons, we're actually going to be looking at taking away these blocks. And the point is to have a spiritual experience and then help somebody else with it. So all the people you see in the back are your pace setters, and they're here because they want to see what happened to them happen to you. All right. So what we've looked at is kind of the consequences or the results of us doing things our way independently on our own. And so I think it's important that we understand how some of our wounding has changed some of our thinking, because there's some of you in here that have some really bizarre things that you believe. There's some of you that if you told us what it was, if you could take all your belief systems, write them down, I bet most of us would probably think that you need medical attention. No. Most of us would probably go, that's a lie, that's a lie. Oh, that's not true. Like, you believe that for real? You believe that about yourself? Imagine if we said that to you. Imagine if we said this about you, you wouldn't like us. You wouldn't be friends with us. You're like, you guys believe that about me? But we believe it about ourselves. So we want to know where that belief system comes from, because that's where the tape comes from. That's where that voice inside, when something else happens out here, you hear it in here. And what you're perceiving here might not even be what you're perceiving in reality. But because of this tape, because of all of this, you're hearing something. And usually it's about rejection, about not being good enough, about not fitting in, about not being valuable, about you name it. Lies, all lies. So we're going to look at belief system, how our belief system is made up. And what is a belief system?
Part of your makeup, like a part of the foundation of who you are, so belief.
Mm-hmm.
So it's grown with you, right?
It has grown with you. It has come from a very young, new beginnings. So I love this Bible verse in Romans 12. Therefore I urge you, brothers, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship. Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. And it's like we looked at what the problem is. And in any issue like alcoholism, what is the problem? The ism, I, self, and me. I'm the problem. And so when we look at the problem it's my will be done is the problem. And this is where it's got me in my life. And so maybe you're somebody that's done a lot of work and has made some vast home improvements. And you've done some renos, but you still have that bedroom there that, you don't show anybody. You don't let anybody walk in. You kind of ignore it's there, except when you need it and when you need to hide stuff, you use that bedroom. So, and there's some of you that are in a war-torn house that's in the rubble, and You're just standing there going, this sucks. Help me. Right? And so I look at the problem of our will. My will be done was the problem. And now I need to give God that job. God's will be done. Turn my life and my will over to the care of God. And you don't need to understand everything about him. You don't need to fully trust him. Your belief systems about him and yourself could be way off. But the goal is what is his will? And I think easily put, it can be about others. Because predominantly my will has to be about me. Right? And even though it might not all be bad, it's fear-based or it's shame-based or it's a belief system that's a total lie. Right? It's not who I am. So that is the goal. So I think as we understand our belief system, then some of the stuff that we've been talking about can make sense. Like the behavioral sequence. I know they can be confusing because it's like these automatic reactions and this is the result and, well, this is what I've always done. And I really want to change that behavior. So understanding that tape that I need to address, understanding my belief system will help that. So that's our point. So how is a belief system made up? Truth, errors, or lies, or deceptions believed as truth, the Word of God, and the spoken or prophetic Word of God. So truth as we know it, for a long time the world was flat. True or false? Prove it. Yeah, true. Right? And they've actually proved it. Right? And so that seems so weird when you think that they thought that the world was round. That wasn't that long ago. Some still do. There's a society. there is. Some still do. So there's the truth as you know it or have known it. There's errors and lies or deceptions as you believe that were true. And the Word of God, there is absolute truth. There is a designer and a creator that made us. And so there is a way that is the truth. There has to be. Where do we get truth from? And that's really what's against in our society is there shouldn't be any absolute truth. There's going to be some big problems with that. And some of the people that are grinding these axes that say there is no absolute truth because they don't want God in our lives, they want independence. If there's no absolute truth, there's going to be things that they don't want to happen that will have to happen. And you're already seeing glimpses of it. We're killing old people, we're killing babies. And there'll be some very unhealthy, sick relationships if this keeps going the way it's going. So, we believe that there's truth, absolute truth, and the Word of God, the Bible, will explain all that. So it's like, how do you know you have a rotten apple? How do you know what light is? You have to get it from somewhere. You have to be aware of that. So the truth of God and then the prophetic Word of God, where God can give you a message through somebody or in a picture in your mind. When you're connected spirit to spirit with God, God is so big he can come to you in your mess, which I've seen that happen in my life. I would have not acknowledged it was God. But when you're seeing little visions and I know what high visions are, believe me. And when you see things that are sobering things or hear a voice that is guiding you in a way that gets you help. I know that the two words that changed my life, the trajectory of my whole life was in my head, was a little movie and God, and I will acknowledge that it was God, that he says, I'm okay. 2 words. My parents, you know how many words my parents gave me? Change your life. Get out of the house. We love you. What have we done so wrong? Turn away from your evil ways. 2 words. I'm okay. Crazy how that truth can change someone's life and start to change the belief system. So a belief system sets our values, our morality, right and wrong, just knowing what is right and wrong, what is good and bad. There's a big fight for that now. Morality used to come out of out of behavioral. It was behavioral, like that's bad, and which is really bad because there was people that were killed for having babies out of wedlock, and that's not long ago. And there's people that would have to leave their country in the civilized world to have a baby, and that kind of thing. Now morality has changed into likes and approvals, and you'll see this really. The biggest new trend now is I will buy or go to something with enough likes or recommendations. And so we as a society are actually giving a moral standard and what we spend our money on how many responses this product or this Airbnb or this driver or isn't it crazy? When you think about that, you're like, oh, Google reviews, eh? Isn't that interesting how the shift has shifted? Shifting shifts. Goals. Belief system sets our values and our goals, our plans, how we want to retire, what we do for breaks and vacations, our aims, what we want to achieve, our ambitions, desires of achievements. I want to become an Olympic athlete or a model or a business owner. So that's my ambitions. How do I get there? That's my belief says that's what I need to be, and that can be cultural. And then what is precious to us? Family, education, money, sex, prestige. Where our belief systems come from. Obviously, our parents, our guardians, our educational system, social, cultural, economical, environmental, religious, political, sickness, trauma, adversity, and media. And I'm sure there is more ways that our belief systems can be altered, but that's a general list. Where our belief systems work. So our belief systems obviously work in our thoughts. That's our will, right? And our minds, our intellect, our behaviors, our attitudes, our motivation, our priorities, lifestyle choices, what we do, because what we think is what we'll end up doing, right? If I think that it's very important to have this type of prestige, then I have to go to this type of school, right? And I have to get this type of degree and this type of program, right? And you look at across the board, it's pretty even playing now. You can go get a 6-year degree or start on a job site and make around the same amount of money now, right? Some of these trades are paying 40, 50, 60 bucks an hour. But my belief system says that's not prestigious. Obsessions, phobias, defense mechanisms, and behavioral cycles. So truth and lies, how our belief systems are formed. Where do lies come from? Lies come from wrong information. Education. If you look at some of the educational there's some of the things that I actually learned in school, and science has actually proved them wrong, and it's coming from science and geology and stuff like that. And I was like, there's stuff that our school systems totally believe that are a lie. Wrong perception, absence of affirming experiences, bad or traumatic experiences, or the enemy. I know that even somebody that hears the truth can turn that into a wound, where my wife was actually given kind of this word from God, and the person said, I just heard from God, and you're the glue that's going to hold your family together. And little did the person know that the family was in crisis and divorce mode and angry, yelling, and all this stuff. And is that a burden that a little child should have? That you're the oldest child and you're the glue that holds your family together? That responsibility that's crushing. But that's ingrained in it, that affirms something that she believed prior. right? C, the consequences of wounding on a person's belief system. Lies fill in the belief system as truth and are acted upon as if they are truth, and this sets up the criteria for future filing. It's kind of like a filing cabinet. Believing lies produces negative or unpleasant emotions, more than needed, pain and inner conflict. What a person believes about themselves and others will affect how they value themselves and others. If they are believing a lie about themselves or another, it will determine their behavior. How do you find out the truth? Right? Who do you go for the truth? I know for me, I was so skeptical in 2005 when I was at a homeless shelter. I could not die and I could not use drugs and alcohol again. So I had to learn how to live sober and went through this program, and they told me that I needed to invite another man into my life to teach me, and that was crippling. I couldn't do it because I didn't trust anybody. Because my belief system was people can't be trusted. Be self-reliant. And aren't those the voices of the enemy? You got this. Go champ. Right? You don't need anybody. They're just going to let you down and hurt you anyway. And then I have a relationship that did that to me. And we all have. But if we believe those lies, how do we start to believe the truth? And I know we all can. I know it. For the most part, I would say we all can. We can all trust somebody. I would hazard a very strong guess. If we were on the canal, if you were on the canal going for a walk, not even skating, it's wintertime. Let's picture the canal is iced over and you're walking and you fall through the ice. And you have been hurt. You've been taken advantage of. You've been ripped off. You've been physically hurt and abandoned by people your whole life. And you're falling through the ice. And you can't get up because it keeps breaking. But there's like 4 people that are putting their arm down for you. I would hazard a guess that everyone in this room would grab a hand. Whatever hand. You're not going to be like, male, female. Okay, I trust females more than males. And you don't, because we're all inherently born to trust. Born to, like, I'm in danger, help me. So I believe that we can all trust, again. Because we can all believe the truth. And the truth is, we do need people. I need you. It's true. How do you find the truth? Ask people that you feel that are truth tellers, that have spirituality, that you see things in their life that you find desirable. Ask Jesus, who is in the Bible the truth, the way, and the life. Write down lies. Acknowledge that it is a lie. Rate the lie on a scale of 1 to 10. And we're going to look at this in just the next page. And repent and ask for forgiveness about believing the lie. And I know for me, I could not trust men. And I've never been at the bad end of male harshness, or I've never been physically or sexually assaulted in really bad ways. I was adopted when I was 2 years old, and obviously there's some trust issues there. But I would say that I'm an average person. I know that some of you have suffered mistrust more than anybody can ever know. And I understand that your challenge isn't my challenge, and it is going to be hard for you to trust. And I know that I was fighting for my life at a rehab center, and I would go to one of counselors in particular because I knew he was in recovery in Alcoholics Anonymous. For some odd reason, we can tell. And this was a rehab that you couldn't know the staff. And so I ran into a problem here and there, and I came home from a Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, and he was working and I beeline for his office because I was on the verge of using, because I had cross-talked, or I had done something that somebody in the group didn't like, and they shut me down. Said, you can't share like that. And I was like, I guess I was embarrassed. My ego. I'm here fighting for my life, and this person's like saying I'm inappropriately sharing. I was like, what? But I was hurt, and I was embarrassed, and I was confused, because this is my 3rd month of recovery from addiction, from alcohol. And so I go there and I sit down, and I'm like on the verge of drinking because somebody said I was inappropriately sharing in a AA meeting. And he said, you should talk to your sponsor about this. I was like, yeah, word. True, I should be. And he's like, you don't have a sponsor. I'm like, no. Hey, right? I think he was on to me. I was like, yeah, no, I don't. He goes, well, you were supposed to get one the first month you were here. I was like, I got issues. I can't. I don't know how. He's like, well, tomorrow go to a meeting and ask somebody to be your sponsor or you're out of here. And I went to that meeting, and my hands were sweaty and clammy, and my mouth was bone dry. And I was like, I was like, I don't know if I've had a panic attack, but I can imagine this was it. And I went up to the front of the room, and before the meeting, I was like, I need a sponsor to help me. And the person said, yeah, great, that's awesome. We got some. We'll give you a temporary sponsor, and you go sit down and enjoy the meeting. And I'm like, yeah. I just sat there, panic mode. After the meeting, the guy came up to me, and they're always so happy at these meetings. And like 4 people gave me their numbers, and I was like, oh, all right, that's enough. And I met a man, and he was a normal guy, and he met me at a coffee shop, which I wasn't used to, and I learned to start trusting people. And so I really had to face the lies that I believed, because the enemy wants to get you alone, to listen to this, to listen to your wounding, to listen to the black dots, and destroy you. And if he can't destroy you, he's going to try and make you useless for anybody else's, for anything else that God would have you do. Do you want to know the truth? I guess would be a good question. What are the lies that I'm believing? Do you want to live according to the truth? So quickly, I'll give you my life example, and then we will get into how we have a belief system. All right, number 1, you have a wound. So I was 2 years old when it was finally decided that little Macy at the time, much cooler name, a little resentment. I got my name changed to Jonathan. Cool name, I know. Anyway, I was taken out of a situation and handed over to beautiful, loving Christian parents who took us on worldwide adventures. Awesome stuff. The message. So this is an experience. The message behind that, and this is what I've grown to understand through my whole healing journey. This isn't something that I just figured out in my first months of recovery, but the message that this sent was that you're no good, you're not worthwhile, and no one could love you. Simply put, you're not okay. There has to be a response after a message. So I say, you're stupid. What are you going to say? Yes or no? Or are you going to? What are the other options? I'm sure there's other options. You guys are smarter than me, probably. But there's a conversation that happens. And the agreement is made that I'm coming into agreement with that lie. And then the vow. So the vow could be a plethora of different things, and you could react differently than you and me, and one of the people could react and you could be a CEO and have never got below a 90 on any test in your life. And then there's the other guy that's been to jail 10 times. Right? That's just different ways of responding to the agreement that I am unlovable, that I am not okay. So the vow is, for me, I have to prove myself. I'm going to prove to everybody that I deserve to breathe the same air as you. And then doing that long enough, right? And all the resentments and all the weight of the black dots and the cockroaches and the voices, all that stuff, you need a medication. And the worm of the medication, the things that we all desire, is comfort, to be comforted. And when you look at some of the attributes of God, I am the comforter. My rod and my staff will comfort you. Like, we all have that within us. So when things are too heavy and the weight is too much to bear, and we probably, I don't know, I would say most of us in here have had the opportunity to have some type of medication that is beyond the rod and the staff. Whether you grew up in the suburbs or the inner city or wherever, I'm sure most of us have had that opportunity where there's a joint or a drink, mom and dad's liquor cabinet, whatever it was. And if you've taken that and you felt the solution that said, hey, I am okay. Who cares? I think that's half the time the medication says, who cares? Doesn't even matter. 15 years go by, and I've been in jail 4 times, and I've been kicked out of school. I have nothing, no education. I have a couple kids out of wedlock. I've got driving offenses. Because of this lie, I'm now living life in a box full of consequences because I can't even drive a car. I'm on my 2nd DUI charge. I've got how many violent offenses? Just because of that one lie that I believed, simply, you're not okay. I didn't know that was the message, but I know that my whole life was spent on trying to prove myself, trying to make you believe that I was okay. And here I am today, throwing down lies. And so when I had a spiritual experience, as this medication stops working, as medication starts to destroy your life, the consequences of medication are worse than whatever's going on in here. I know when I went to rehab, I didn't care what the outcome was necessarily. I just needed this to stop. And what it was the lies. I can look back and go, that was all the lies. You're not okay. Oh, you should feel insecure. They're all looking at you. I realize very few people care about me. Like when I'm in a room, they're not like, oh, he's here. No. So few people care, and the rest of them probably hope I'm not doing well. And it's that the voices in my head were so loud. I wanted that to just stop because drugs and alcohol stopped working and I couldn't take my life. Anyway, all right, so that's kind of the belief systems, the belief expectation cycle. So, number 1, you have an experience. So this could happen to all of us. that have ever graced the walls of a school. So this is, I have this example written down. The teacher embarrasses you in front of others. If you were one of the people that whenever the teacher started talking and the question came up, what person were you? Were you this person? Oh, ah! Remember that? Oh. Or were you the person that but not too much, because then you would look distracted and they would pick on you. So you had to kind of get the right. It was a horrible dance. But the teacher, I'm sure, so many times embarrasses somebody without trying to. They're not trying to be mean unless they are. So the teacher embarrasses you in front of others. The belief, I'm not smart, and or teachers are mean. So you could, depends who you are, you can get different belief systems out of different experiences. But the important part is there's an experience. The expectation is I am stupid, and teachers will always treat me that way, right? So the wound is the experience, the message, whatever that is. It could be different for different people. And then the agreement and the vow. The vow would be, we react in so many different ways. I refuse to study. What's the point of studying? Because I'm stupid. Teachers can't be trusted. Authority sucks. Right? All those kind of things. Education's not for me. The way to stop the belief expectation cycle is to intervene in between the experience and the belief. Need an intervention. We must choose God's truth as our new belief. When we replace the old lie with God's truth, then the other parts of the cycle will change. Think of an example of an ungodly belief that has operated in your life. What experience got this belief established? What expectations and behaviors came out of this belief? Are you ready to change this belief? Let's do it. So this, you can incorporate the what's my thing? The behavioral sequence. Thanks, guys. The behavioral sequence. You can start to really understand it now and go, okay, this. When I see this outside cue, this is happening because I totally believe that it should be. I believe that I should be getting angry or fearful or whatever. So this is, the understanding of this is to really enable you to start to believe truth and replace the tapes with counters. And the point of this is to get different results. All right. So this one, when I was teaching rehab with men, this was a very good example. When I took it outside of giving it to men, there was crying and wailing and gnashing of teeth. And I was like, what's happening to my lesson? Why is my mom crying? She was in my class. And it ended really bad. This is a belief system that I don't even like the word of it, but it's called codependency. And so 14 people just went. So it's a horrible word to begin with, but I didn't realize, because as alcoholics, as addicts, we need what we can call, the terminology is not important, so don't go deaf when I say it again. I need, as an alcoholic, for my longevity in my career of drinking and debauchery and bad behavior, I need codependent people. I need people that are enablers. I need people that are condoners. I need people that approve of my behavior and rescue me and help me. But it's the Christian thing to do. It is. So I want to go over this example a little bit. I've learned to be more sensitive But when we teach this with male alcoholic and drug addicts, we're like, oh yeah, those poor people. Did we, oh my goodness. And we feel bad and we realize like, oh wow, every relationship that we've ever had, we consumed because we needed them as much as they needed us. All right, here we go. Codependency. Is there another word for it? Does anybody want to use another? Or we all like that word, codependency. Yeah, all right, fine. Till then, text me another word and we'll change it. If you've believed something to be true your whole entire life, because a lot of our belief systems come from our family of origin, when you start to hear the truth, a lot of times you'll argue it because everything that you've done in your life was based on that belief system, especially this one. All the good that you've done and all the help that you've provided may be a lot because you might have been doing it for the wrong reason. All right. Do I just read that? What do we do here? All right, class is over. Oh. All right, in the continual quest to find balance in our relationships, we must take time to explore whether we tend toward codependency. Codependency is one of those psychological terms that describes a dysfunctional way of behaving in important relationships in one's life. It is primarily a learned behavior from our family of origin. Some cultures have it to a greater degree than others. Some still see it as a normal way of being. Yet, the cost of codependency can include distrust, faulty expectations, passive aggressiveness, control, self-neglect, over-focus on others, manipulation, and a slew of unattractive traits. Wondering if you might be involved in a codependent relationship? Read on. And we will. Are we doing okay? Blood pressure is at a medium to high right now.
Dysfunctional and unattractive. That was a great paragraph. I love it.
Great. All right.
Damn worry.
These are some signs that you may have codependent belief system or behaviors. Taking responsibility for someone else's actions. Worrying or carrying the burden for others' problems. Like them not caring and you caring. Covering up to protect others from reaping the consequences of their poor choices. Doing more than is required at your job or at your home to earn approval. Feeling obligated to do what others expect without consulting one's own needs. Manipulating others' responses instead of accepting them at face value. Being suspicious of receiving love. Not feeling worthy of being loved. In a relationship based on need, not out of mutual respect. Trying to solve someone else's problems or trying to change someone. Life being direct by external rather than internal cues. Should do versus want to do. Enabling someone to take our time or resources without our consent. Neglecting our own needs in the process of caring for someone else who doesn't want to care for themselves. Many believe that they will lose who they are if they are not codependent. In reality, we become more ourselves when we are less of what others expect from us. To come out of codependency is a huge gift we give ourselves. The victory of growing away from it will balance out our responsibility to ourselves and to others. The key of repairing and ending codependency is start protecting and nurturing ourselves. That might sound a selfish act, but it will return us to a place of balance. Others will understand that we now respect and protect ourselves from overcommitting or abuse. So, this belief system looks really good on paper. Because you are taking responsibility, you are helping, you are you're minimizing consequences. At the end of this belief system, what is never said but is believed for the most part is I'm God. I'm needed. I am so valuable in this situation. I'm God. I get to decide. I get to pay the bills. I get to. And that's really the underlying theme. And that's why addicts and codependents seem to attract each other, interestingly enough. So on the outside, codependency looks super Christian, right? Because you're caring, you're going well, you're sacrificing, like literally cutting off your left and right arm, right? Selling them at the pawn shop so that we can pay our bills, and then going, to the food bank to go get food because they just blew the rent check. But I'm doing all this. I got this. Right? And some of you are in relationships or even with children or whatever it is, and you're playing God. And I think the hardest part is to actually give them over to God. How'd I do? All right, that's codependency. It's a tough one, and it's super complex, but the belief system, the wounding, if somebody has this wounding and they hear a confirming word from God that you are the glue that holds your family together, I am needed. I'm God's little servant. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to hide. I'm going to minimize. I'm going to defend. Right? How many people in here have called in sick to work for someone else? That was funny, eh? Everybody's like, I called in sick. No, for someone else. Right? Yeah. God bless you. All right. Is that it?